All right, let's dive in. Today, we're putting together the blueprint for a truly great website. And I'm not just talking about pretty pictures and cool animations. We're going to get into the science of web design, how to communicate clearly and effectively. Let's get to it.
So first things first, let's ask a question that I think we've all screamed at our screens at some point. Why are so many websites just so frustrating? You know the feeling. You're clicking around, totally lost, just trying to find one simple thing. It's this universal headache, and it almost always boils down to one simple culprit: bad design.
And this slide just captures it perfectly, doesn't it? On the left, you've got that bad user interface or UI. It's just chaos. It's cluttered, it's confusing. Honestly, it's stressful just to look at. But then you look at the right. Good UI. It's clean, it's intuitive. It feels like it can breathe. See, it doesn't just throw information at you. It guides you.
So how do we get that clean, guiding design? Well, here's the secret. It doesn't start with picking colors or fonts. It doesn't even start with code. It starts with strategy. And that brings us to section 1. You have to start with your why.
This whole foundation is built on two really crucial pillars. First, you've got to define your purpose. What is the single most important thing you want a user to do on your site? Is it to buy something, to sign up for a newsletter, or maybe just to find a phone number? Once you know that, you can move on to the second pillar. Who are you building this for? You have to identify your audience. And knowing your audience is absolutely critical. We're talking about demographics here. Think about it. A design with bold, flashy images might work great for an audience in the US, but it could completely miss the mark, or even be inappropriate for an audience in Pakistan or the Middle East. Things like culture, age, and where people live totally shape what they expect from a website. Okay, so once our strategy is locked in, now it's time to get into the fun stuff. This brings us to section 2, crafting the visual language. This is where we take all those strategic ideas and translate them into the actual look and feel of the website. And this visual language really stands on 3 main pillars that have to work together. You've got the psychology of your colors, the personality that comes from your typography, and of course, the emotional punch of your imagery. When you get these 3 working in harmony, you create a really powerful and unforgettable brand identity. Let's dig into color psychology, starting with red. Red just screams energy, passion, excitement. It's the color of a stop sign, right? It demands your attention. It's really no surprise that brands like Coca-Cola, Netflix, and YouTube all use it. They want to grab you and create this sense of energy right away. Now let's flip to the other end of the spectrum, blue. Blue gives off a feeling of trust, stability, and professionalism. It's the color of the calm ocean or a clear sky. It's just reassuring. And that is exactly why you see it all over the place with big tech and financial companies like IBM and Facebook. They want to send a clear message. You can trust us. We're stable and secure. And then we have green. You know, our brains are just wired to connect green with nature, with health, with growth. It kind of signals safety and life. So, of course, brands like Starbucks and Whole Foods lean into that. They use it to give you a sense of wellness and harmony. It's a perfect fit for anything related to health, the environment, or even finance.
Oh, and here's a fantastic pro tip. You should try to avoid using pure 100% black and pure 100% white. That super high contrast can actually be pretty tough on the eyes, especially if someone's reading for a while. So instead, use a really dark gray or an off-white. It's such a small, subtle tweak, but it makes a huge difference in how comfortable your site is to use.
Next up is typography. And this is so much more than just picking a cool-looking font. Typography is basically the voice of your website. And a number 1 non-negotiable rule is that it has to be readable. That's why it's usually a good idea to stick with web-safe fonts. That way you know your text is going to look crisp and consistent on every single screen, every single time. So we've got our strategy, we've got our visuals, but let's be real. A beautiful website that's impossible to use is, well, it's useless. And that takes us to section 3, designing the user's experience. If UI is how the site looks, then user experience, or UX, is all about how it works and how it feels to use it. A huge piece of this puzzle is responsive design. I mean, think about it. Your website has to look and work perfectly, whether it's on a giant desktop monitor or a tiny little phone screen. The layout has to be smart enough to adapt on the fly, stacking, resizing, and shifting things around so that the experience always feels natural. And making it feel natural for everyone means we have to talk about accessibility. And let me be clear, this is not an optional feature. It is a fundamental requirement of good design. It means making sure that people with visual, motor,
auditory, or any other disability can use your website just as easily as anyone else.
And if the simple fact that it's the right thing to do isn't enough motivation, well, maybe this is. Hundreds of lawsuits have been filed against some of the biggest companies in the world. We're talking Nike, Amazon, Netflix, all because their sites weren't accessible. It's a serious legal and financial risk you just can't afford to ignore.
So, you've built the site, it's beautiful, it's functional, it's accessible, but how do you know if it's actually working? How do you know if it's meeting those goals we set way back in the beginning? Well, that leads us to our final section. Section 4, the final reality check. This is where we let the data do the talking.
Two key numbers can tell you almost the whole story. First, you have your bounce rate. That's the percentage of people who show up on your site, take one look, and leave immediately. You want that number to be as low as possible. Then you have the opposite, your conversion rate. That's the percentage of people who actually do the thing you want them to do. You want that number to be as high as possible. They're two sides of the same success coin.
So after all of that, what's the big takeaway? What's the one thing to remember? It's this. A great website is so much more than a digital page. It's an experience. It's a seamless, easy conversation between you and your user, one where you anticipate their needs and meet them at every single click.
And that brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with. Take a hard look at your own website, your own projects, and ask yourself this one simple thing. Is your website truly having a conversation, or is it just making noise?